All right, and we are live. Welcome to episode 34 of the Counter Strike Casuals podcast. We're here, we're live, we're back. You haven't got a beer. I've already
No,
opened.
that's
No, I've already opened my beer, so whatever. Sound effects and that. You got the merch. Let's go. We're not going to chat too much about what we've been doing and nonsense because me living in a madhouse with these kids and shit, we don't know what's going to happen. My wife could bust in at any time and say, "Drop your shit, get off." So let's get straight into some Counter Strike chat, man, because there's been a lot going on. It's felt great to have Tier 1 Counter Strike back. We've had the Blast Premier Spring groups going on. You've watched some. I watched bits. I don't know. It's been a bit of a whirlwind. My kid's 11 days old, so it's a bit mad. But you watched some, right? I don't know. I feel like you were telling me you're watching some, whether you had it on the background or whatever. But
Yeah, I was watching bits here and there. So, yeah, it was good. I mean, as much as I can do at the minute. I was watching bits. Who did I watch? Now, let me have a look. I watched a bit of VP. Was it them versus? I can't remember. I'm gonna have to get the games up.
get
I
the
watched
games up.
G2 actually. G2. What's his name? Hunter was playing really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and who else was playing well?
Well,
Stare, I
Mon-
feel like Stare's playing well
yeah.
for
Interesting. I could bring that up because well, Monacy had the better kind of tournament. I still not call it tournament. Okay, let's just rewind very quickly, right? So why we have a bit of an invested interest is we're going to watch the actual spring finals in London, right? So we're going to go watch them. We're watching the semi-finals. Got tickets for that day. So what this was for, and again, Counter Strike's so fucking annoying because it's so confusing with this stuff. They love to overcomplicate this qualification process in every single event, it seems. But Blast in particular are just long-winded to fuck. So basically, it was to qualify for the event we're going to see in June. Okay, 6 teams would qualify from these spring groups. The teams that ended up qualifying were Astralis, G2, Vitality, FaZe, Navi, and Virtus Pro. There's a load of other teams that didn't qualify, which we can kind of talk about who were surprised did and whatever. And then there's still another 2 people that can qualify from another round of games, which is basically all of those people. I think they're all in that didn't qualify this time around. Let me just check. Yeah, pretty much everyone in those spring groups can have another go in March at the spring showdown, and only 2 of those teams then go through to the finals in June or July, whatever, in London. So, who played well? Who did we watch? You were saying just then. Let's start with G2, I guess, because you mentioned about Hunter and the like. Well, from what I understand, and again, I'm just looking at stats, I think Monacy had a hell of a series and was pretty much top fragging for them, or top of the leaderboard in most instances. But there was one you said that Hunter was banging some stuff in as well on a few maps that you watched. How are you feeling about them in this tournament? Because, mate, Nexa, to me, from looking at the stats again, and I didn't actually catch many of the games, to be honest, but what I can see, man, Nexa is inconsistent. That team feels like it needs a JKS. That's what it looks like to me. I don't know what's going on, but yeah. If Monacy, Hunter, and Nico play well, they're fine. If not, I'm not sure how it goes down.
Yeah, well, I think what's interesting about G2, or to put it more correct, is the fact that they lost against Navi twice. So it's more interesting about Navi. They beat Nip, and then they lost to Navi 2-1, and then they played Navi again and lost to them 2-0. Pretty convincingly. Where Monacy did play well, Nico didn't play great, and Nexa didn't play great. I feel like Nico's, like I've said this in the past with G2, Monacy and Nico kind of both have to play well, or at least one of them has to go off for their team to do well. I was thinking about this, I think it was today actually. If a team as two top tier players, are they automatically a top three team, for example? The G2, you would probably put them in the top three, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, well, actually, they might be inching out of that at the moment because of the Nexa move, and I with Nico, I don't think Nico's adapted to CS2 as well as some of the other big names. I don't think he's been
Yeah.
playing as well as old Nico in CS:GO. I mean, he had a blinder in the kind of last elimination thing against Liquid, and he topped the leaderboards there. But Hunter was pretty much bang on his tail there as well, which is probably the game you're referring to when Hunter played well. But I don't think Hunter.
Yeah, he was ridiculous. It
Okay,
was them versus Liquid that I watched, and Hunter was ridiculous. Like he was so impactful, and I feel like since we kind of shit on him after or I did anyway, after the ratings came out, HLTV ratings, I kind of shit on him, by saying he should be in the top 20, and he just kind of proved me wrong in that one game against Liquid.
I feel like that just happens though, doesn't it? Like if you ever say anything's one way, it always goes the other.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know with G2. I just still don't get the Nexa thing. It just
So
feels.
just I want to segue off G2 slightly, because I feel like there's some quite important teams we need to talk about as well. Like I just mentioned Navi beating them, and Navi the real deal. They don't have a top tier player really. This is kind of what kind of made me ask the question: do we have to give Navi any attention because they don't have a top 20 player, do they? No, none
No,
of them top 20.
no, definitely. Well, Bit's been performing pretty well. I like New Navi, and I said this when they were formed. I think you can go back and listen to some of the old episodes where I mentioned it or talked about it. I had like a resurgence of like hype about Navi, and I think Wonderful looks very good. I mean, the geezer is
Yeah,
like young lad coming to fill massive boots. The pressure on Wonderful to fill the shoes of Simple as an AWPer. I actually think he's exceeded expectations as that AWPer role. Like the guy's performing and putting up numbers that, like, in a rookie year or like his breakout year, it's fair enough. Like I think Navi looked good. I think. Sorry, pardon me. I just burped because I had a couple of beers. Bit's been performing well. JL is always consistent. The
yeah.
actual biggest question mark is still Immer. I think. I think Alexi B as the RGL, he's having one of those little runs where he's beating all his old teams, and there's a bit of hype in the social medias about, oh, Alexi B beats all his old teams, and they should never have lost him. Alexi B's been in enough teams now to know what he's doing. The guy as well. I think there was. I can't remember exactly what game it was, but I think I tuned in for like 10 minutes cooking dinner, and it was Anubis, and he was. They were trying to get into B site, and his nades, man. Alexi B's nades are mad. They're always on point. Like whenever I see Alexi B with a nade, he just knows what he's doing with it, and it's something that traditionally I wouldn't have appreciated, but now I a bit more into it, and my attention on Counter Strike's a lot more intense, and it needs to be respected. And I think as his calls for Navi as well seem to be paying off, man, because I think they're getting good results. When you actually look
I
at
think
their run here, go on.
I think just to touch on Alexi B, I think that he's in such a good situation as he is now because I feel like everyone will kind of listen to him. Whereas before, when Simple was on board, I think everyone found it difficult because I felt like, obviously, we don't hear a lot of comms, but it felt like there was a bit of friction between the two because when you've got an in-game leader, they need to be respected, and
Yep.
the team need to obviously respect them, but also listen to their calls and appreciate their calls and be fully into their calls. So whatever they say, they think is going to work. Whereas when Simple's being a bit negative, I feel like Simple thinks he knows best, and also Blade's on board as well. So I think that makes it like doubly hard for Alexi B. But I
Yeah.
think now that team with Imed, JL, Wonderful, and even Bit, they'll all listen to him because Simple's not there causing any friction. And I don't think
Distraction.
it's, yeah, it sounds like a really negative Simple take, and I don't think it's just that because obviously it has worked in the past with Simple. I just think with Alexi B's style and just personality, I think they clash with him and Simple.
Yeah. No,
So
I've always been I've always been more positive about Navi when Simple left because
yeah, and I agree with pretty much everything you said. So I don't really need to say too much. Imma, like you say, we've still got questions about him, but as we know from the major, like he can pop off.
yeah,
Liverpool, JL have been playing really well since CS2. JL's been playing really well, and I think Bit is just Bit still, which is great.
yeah. With to be fair, like just having a quick look back at these results in this Blast Spin groups, Imma posted pretty good stats against G2 in the first game, 1.28. It was only just behind Bit. He dropped off a bit from then, but generally, Navi just looked like they were playing some good games. They only had 3 games. It wasn't a lot of games. If you won 3 games, you qualified. So it wasn't like a big pool to take from. But
Yeah, but I mean, destroying Complexity, who were on a bit of a tear before this, um, and beating G2 twice
yeah,
is pretty impressive.
I agree.
So anyway, let's move on from Navi. We've been on them way too long. Liquid, I wanted to touch on them quickly because, um,
Yeah,
like I said earlier, G2 did play against Liquid, and they're a new team, got pretty high hopes, pretty interesting team. What's your opinions on them?
I am sad that they didn't qualify. I would like to have seen them in London. I think you know how I feel about Yakinda. You know how I feel about NAF. I like Liquid. Twist is fucking phase boy of old, so he's got. Mate, I like all of Liquid players. I don't know much about Skulls, right? But like Liquid is a team for me that's exciting, and I am sad they didn't qualify. But I'm not going to read too much into it. I think it's early days for them, man.
Skulls was playing well, you know.
Yeah, I think he's a pretty good player, right?
Especially
Again, he
the
comes from
game
that.
I played, yeah. The
He,
game I watched, sorry, G2 versus Liquid, Skulls was playing well.
he comes from that abyss black hole of like South American culture. I don't know anything about anyone, but um, yeah, I've got massive expectations on Liquid, and I think if they don't end up being a top 10 team, it's really disappointing. And I don't know what happens there, but it's early days, so you can't read too much into this. I think this is like the first tier 1 event that's coming back a bit, or like not even a proper event, right? Katowice is in a couple of days, so we start to see the real tryhards and like the real effort being made. So
Yeah.
I think this is like early days. It is what it is. It's sad we're not going to see them in London because I would have liked to have seen them, although they
Well,
have.
they've got another chance, right?
Well, actually, yes. Sorry, you are completely right.
So,
Yeah. So I hope.
so out of the guys that didn't qualify, let's quickly give me your two that you would like to qualify.
I would like it to be Cloud9 and Liquid.
Okay. Question. Donk.
Mm.
He's obviously not playing at the minute. If
It
Spirit
was
get
visa
through, will
issues,
he
I
be
think, right?
playing?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
I meant to look at this actually because obviously he's not
Well, you're
playing. I
saying
wanted to
if he qualifies through the
Spirit
showdown, does he
qualify.
go through to the one that we're watching, to the finals? Yeah, I don't know how that works at all.
Okay, so you're saying Cloud9 and Liquid.
Cloud9 Liquid would be the ones that I would like to go through. So when I say think we'll go through those ones, I want to see. I think that would make
Okay.
I think that would make for a good. That's like a really good pool of teams for um for that event. That's a fucking good. That's a strong pool, right?
Yeah, I agree. But if I was to pick a different two, I'd probably go Falcons and either Spirit or Heroic. But I would definitely pick Liquid if if you hadn't already picked them. But yeah. Also, we should be saying Big. Remember when we first started the podcast, Big were our team.
They were our team, to be fair. And I really
I don't
rate
know why.
Mantu.
Did they message us or something? Manty's been playing well.
Yeah, Mantu's a good player. They messaged just on an Instagram post. Yeah. Anyway, big up, big. They're always gonna have a special place in our heart, but I still would like to see Cloud9 and Liquid if we actually end up going to an event and there's chance of seeing those players. Um, just quickly, you mentioned before Stare and Astralis. Okay, Everyone
Yeah.
knows, if we've got any frequent listeners to this podcast, everyone knows I'm not a big fan of Astralis in a sense of how they do things, although really rightfully or wrongfully pointing out I'd probably be like Astralis if I ran a team. Um, that being said, it is hard to ignore them or actually like watching them when they're just beating people and they're beating the likes of Vitality. They did lose Vitality, but like they look fucking good. Like they look. And you mentioned Stair. Interesting about Stair is on the stats, he's not like top of the board or anything, but I agree with you from what I saw, which I think I watched a bit of the one of the Vitality games or the Falcons. I can't remember again. My mind's a bit of a fucking blur at the moment because of life. Stair looked really good and impactful, right? So the eye test, as they say, is checking out with Stair. But and also, sorry, just quickly out of my mind, I remember when they had Altex and my Altex, it was like Altex, Buzz, and all that. And I was of the opinion you should lose out Buzz, keep Altex, and I can't remember what my opinion on was Stair. But then when Buzz started playing well recently, and they binned him off, I was like, oh, not sure that was the right move because Buzz started to look really good. I think even in CS2 or towards the CS:GO, and I was like, maybe they should have kicked Stair. You know what I mean? But I think you're right.
Well,
He looked pretty good.
you just touched on him not, he's been skillful but not top of the scoreboard. The last game, the elimination game against Big, he was their top-rated player by
Right.
a fair amount. He was rated 1.23. Stown was second, well, joint second with Blame F at 1.09. And that's the game. I didn't watch all of it, but I did watch some of it. And, I don't know if I've ever said anything bad about Stair, but I definitely, when they first got together, I would have said he wasn't a great pick because
You
I
weren't
was kind
excited by him, probably.
no, because Buzz did go off a couple of times, and I was thinking, oh,
Yeah,
maybe Buzz is the guy to keep. But Stair's been playing so well; he's playing his role really well, and I want to give props to Blamaf as well.
yeah,
Blamaf's been calling really, really well, and still fragging at the same time. And I don't think he's been getting much credit, and I think he definitely deserves it. They've been playing well to beat Vitality. I think we mentioned it on the last podcast, maybe.
quite refreshing to see Vitality lose, but I don't know why. I think it's just because
Well,
Zyra is just so fucking good.
I've said this in the past. I don't like there being one team that's just like dominant, and I want there to be more teams in the mix. Like, if you ask anyone in CS now who's going to win this event, everybody just says it's Vitality.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a bit boring. We want more teams in the mix. They're just so stacked. They're just so stacked. It's ridiculous.
yeah, and Zyra is just fucking mental. Look at some of the stats, right, for Zyra. It is just,
Nauru is like clearly the best player in the world at the minute.
mate. His
And then
first
they
game against
also have
OG that I watched Vitality OG, and I watched it because I wanted to see Heavy God, and it was boring. So they beat them 13-0 on Mirage and so 1.68 rating.
yeah,
1.68 rating.
mate, Apex was 1.49, Spinks was 1.46, Flames was 1.43, and Messi was 1.37.
Poor OG, man. I was actually getting semi excited about them because of those open qualifiers for the
Any
major.
any of those ratings could have been top in pretty much any other
Any
game.
other game. Yeah, 100%. You're right. One thing I did want to say about Astralis again before we're a bit jumpy all over the place. That's probably because of the time pressure I've applied to this podcast. Is how is Device not putting up better figures than he is? Is
I,
he? Go on. Like,
I
what the
think
fuck?
Rice is past it. I
Uh,
think he's past it
okay.
somehow. I think that break he had, he's missed his peak, and when I'm watching him, he looks like an older CS player, like a really, really good older kind of brinking retirement player. Like, I'm not saying he should be that. I still think he's a great player, but when I'm watching him, he's not got that spark that he used to have. Like,
What?
you can see it's like he'll go for like a certain flip, and it's like watching an old guy who used to be like really fast, and he's not anymore.
Okay.
And that sounds really like a really big downer on Device, and I don't mean it to be, but he's definitely not what he used to be.
Oh, 100%. Like,
He's still good. He's still a sick player, and I still think the team can go places with him. But he's nowhere near what he used to be,
he's not
and it's a bit
electric
sad.
anymore, is he?
Yeah.
He's not got like those 3 or 4K highlights every game. It feels like where you knew that Device was gonna fucking do something mad with the AWP and like just clutch around. I just doesn't feel like that happens as much anymore, which is yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. Um, we've spoken a lot about Blast. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we maybe just quickly?
Something I kind of wanted to touch on was this new rating system. We've kind of touched on it in the past, so I'm saying new rating system. It's not new. It's the CS2 rating
The new,
system, Premier.
the Premier rating system.
Yeah. Do you prefer it to the old ranked system? And do you know what Premier rank would be in the previous ranking system?
Okay, to answer your first question, do I prefer it? Yes. I think the sim. Okay, so they tried to make it more like Face It, right, with the Nilo system. So with Face It, you can clearly see what someone's elo is. If you get to Face It 10, you can see that whoever's got more 100 more elo than if I'm Face It 10, you're Face It 10, but I've got 100 more elo, you can see I'm slightly better than you, whatever. They're trying to make it more like that, and I think that's completely understandable, especially because there was no point, was there? That's why Face It is that why Face It got created? I might just be throwing a complete wild thing out there, but what was the point once you got to global elite in CS:GO? It's like, well, I'm global elite. Like, I don't know how I compare to you. If we're both global elites, what's the point? Who's better? We don't know. And you always need that for people. Otherwise, they're just always going to strive for something more. So I do prefer it, and I think it works better that way. In terms of the how it relates to CS:GO ranks, no, I don't know what the equivalent is actually. Do you? Are you going to tell me?
Well, I just got it up now. I didn't know. So from like 1,000 up to 2,800 ish, it's saying that's silver one.
Where are you
So
looking at this? Let me follow you.
literally on a Reddit post.
Reddit.
Um,
Well, Reddit knows
I just
best.
I just googled. I just googled this. So silver, what is that? Silver four is between basically 5,000 and 5,600 ish.
Okay.
So global elite is actually anything over 18,000 up to 30,000,
Oh,
which
here
is
you go. I think I found this.
insane.
Is this the one where it said it doesn't relate or doesn't correspond?
Um,
Maybe
it just says
2 months ago.
correspondence. Um, maybe.
Okay, so interesting. This would actually relate. Well, it put me higher, slightly higher than what I actually got in my CS:GO rating.
But you've been on a bit of a tear, so I think that's pretty understandable. I would be mine now 10k ish, which would be about the same as I was previously. So yeah, that's fair. Um, but yeah, that seems quite big for 18,000 up to 30,000 is global elite. So I kind of see where you're coming from, because back with the old system, if you were ranked 8,000 and some other guys ranked 25,000, he's obviously better. Whereas back in the day, we wouldn't have been able to see that, but now we can.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I
But
think these are probably more realistic than what they were. But again, I think that's because what the ratings I saw.
well, this is 1 million players analysed.
Okay.
This was back in November, which I imagine it's fairly similar now.
Yeah.
In the past, I've seen it's global elite anything from 15,000. So average like gold ratings
Yeah.
for those golds. Like if you were gold over four, or you were in CS:GO, that's between 8,300 and 9,300.
I prefer it. It gives a more transparency and like clarity on exactly where you rank and where you sit in the system, so to speak. So I think it's better. Um, there's a few other things we wanted to talk about, but I might have already have mini deers in the room with me. That's the only issue. So I might need to already cut it short. But
Well, there's not loads we need to go through. I mean, we've got some play-ins that are starting
yeah,
tomorrow.
is it tomorrow the Katowice are playing? Yeah, they're tomorrow, aren't they? So those are to qualify for Katowice, which start on Saturday, correct? That's what it is.
Yeah, and just having a quick glance, there's no one that's like top tiers. They're already through anyway.
Yeah.
But we can address these when we come back
I think so.
next week.
There's 8 of those teams that go through to Katowice, and there's so basically half of them. There's 16 playing tomorrow through to Friday, I think, and half of them will go through to Katowice, where it starts on the Saturday. So I guess they're all in Katowice now, right? Getting ready to play, and then obviously the final for Katowice. When's the actual final for Katowice? So the 11th. So the following week. So we've got all of tomorrow onwards through to next week of proper Counter-Strike, the first proper competition. And who? Right, let's do it quickly now, and then we're going to probably have to call it a day. Who's winning Cato?
Right, we're not allowed to say Vitality.
Okay, we're vetoing Vitality. Vitality are completely out. Bearing in mind you've got the play-in teams as well, so you've got all those teams that need to try and qualify and then go through and win it.
Okay.
I think I've got my
Astralis.
Yeah, I've got my team. You're going to Astralis. I'm going Virtus Pro.
I nearly fit them, but
okay,
yeah,
fine.
cool.
So Astralis Virtus Pro are the picks to try and win Cato. Let's see how realistic. It's going to be bloody someone like Mouse
And
now. No one expects.
Just for the record, I avoided FaZe as well. I didn't want to say them either.
Yeah, same. Although if they win, that's because they're the best. Virtus Pro for me, Astralis for you. Of course, it's Astralis for you. Right.
Come on, the boys.
Come on, the boys. Let's short and sweet. That's why we like these podcasts at the moment. We will be back next week, I guess, hopefully, with another episode. I've got some more stuff. I've got my notes that we'll talk about next week. So let's get watching Cato, see how we get on. Hopefully Virtus Pro win, and we'll see you next week.
Sweet. Peace.